Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, whether you are here on YouTube, Facebook, or X, formerly referred to as Twitter. Appreciate y'all being on with us. I am Natasha, the director of Raise Your Hand. And I know that there's so many places you can be on your Tuesday afternoon, but I appreciate you being here with us. Again, these Teach-In Tuesdays are an opportunity for us to reach parents who, are on the go, busy, and so while we, put out, our newsletters and, organize in other spaces, this bringing this conversation to the virtual space is an opportunity to expand the conversation and to join in. So if you are joining us, excuse me, on YouTube or Facebook, you have access to a comment or a chat box. We can see those comments. So if you have a comment or a question or a thought or suggestion, I should say, please feel free to drop that in the chat and we will populate those as they come through. Again, thanks everyone for joining us. Sure to appreciate y'all. One thing that we want to do is we build out these Teach-In Tuesdays. We're looking for guests that would love to join us. If you are doing some education related work, I would say racial justice, social justice, know your rights type work, things that you think that parents, if you are a student, a youth, alum of CPS, would love to have y'all on to talk about the work that you're doing across Chicago to strengthen and move us more to an equitable public education for all students and families. So the invitation is open to reach out to us if you would like to join us in this space and talk about the work that you are doing. It's definitely important that we, definitely want to be collaborative and know that if there is, it's going to take an all hands on deck approach for us to get to the liberation that we know our classrooms and hallways need to be, and the policies that are associated with that, needs to be strengthened, and that it's going to take all of us to do that. So I want to bring up Chinella. We're going to have a discussion today about several things. I think as we have highlighted on our our cover for today is that we're going to talk about some more LSC empowerment. I think over the last couple of weeks, we talked about the upcoming LSC elections. I think last week when we were on is when it was released. Was the deadline extended after we were on last week? Since we were on, the deadline to apply for local school council was extended by a few days. There was a push from the community or the local school council or the LSCs for All Coalition for the district to extend the deadline by a minimum of 2 weeks to help build momentum before the deadline. We see that there's hovering around 30% of available seats have candidates. I know that there is a tradition to file your application like the day of. So that deadline is going to be Wednesday, February 14th, no later than 3 p.m. You file 2 ways. You take that nomination form, complete a nomination form, either to the school that you plan to run as either a parent or community, student or teacher, of course, or you can take it to the CPS Office of Local School Council Relations, which is over on Washington Boulevard, over in the Garfield Park in a neighborhood of the city. Chanel, is there anything that I am missing that we should lift up for the upcoming LSC election?
No, I wouldn't say that it was anything that you're missing, but what I do remember, and I know we're going to talk about the LSCAB meeting a little bit later, but there was in the public comments, one person did, mention and call for extending the deadline again. Because we don't have, a lot of those seats are not going to be filled, and we know that we do have low parent engagement, and it's for a variety of reasons. So I would hope that they would take this into consideration for next year. I do think that maybe February is probably too early. to be having that deadline. But I was happy to see that he mentioned that, because while we do appreciate having more time, it does kind of feel like it still wasn't enough.
For those of us that like the last couple LSC cycles, if you remember, it usually opens up in January. So it opens up in January. You typically have until March, at least going back to the 2018 LSC election cycle, you had until March. I think it was like March 8th or 10th to apply for LSC. So for a lot of, our parents and community who, are usually tracking around that, you know, definitely want to get the word out and make sure that folks who are interested have the ability to apply. But I agree with you. This, it seems like the district went and, opened up the LSC election cycle in October. And that's why we find ourselves here in this early February. But if there's a suggestion for them is to put it back to the way it used to be. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is definitely the mantra here. But yeah, hopefully the district does heed that advice. Like I said, the LSCs for All Coalition reached out um, and requested that, I think about 2 weeks ago now, and requested that they extend the deadline. And they extended it just those few days. So hopefully, excuse me, they asked for it to be extended by 2 weeks at a minimum. So we shall see. I think maybe we can take a moment to talk a little bit about, so in addition to folks running for LSC, the election judge application is also out there. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So yeah, so we are seeing that they are looking for election judges. If I am correct, it is 250 or $275. And you are able to fill out that application and possibly do the elementary and the high school days, because it's one each day. And we just, need people to come out there and support and help out to make sure that everything goes smoothly on that day. A lot of people that are running will be outside of the schools, probably, more than likely, trying to get those last few votes. But just keep in mind that we also need people inside the school to, again, make sure that everything is running smoothly with the application and voting process.
Yeah, that's solid. I will definitely say that's huge. I think in the 2018 cycle, they were paid about $150 per day. And I don't think it was average. I'm not sure if it was advertised that you could do both days, but to see that bump up is solid. So, for those who haven't served, maybe you have served election judge at the municipal election, it's much like that. The polls are open at the schools. So the elementary school, April 10th, at the high school, Thursday, April 11th. Those are also report cards, spring report card pickup. What you would do is the polls are open from 6 to 7. So those election judges are in the school, in the building, making sure that, like to Trinella's point, making sure that the election is fair, accessible, and follows policy. And so, you can definitely serve both of those days. It does appear to be a long day, but it's definitely, you know, you don't typically have, uh, you know, voters throughout the day. There's definitely spikes in when people come out and typically vote. So it's a good time for those who have a crew that usually go to the same schools each year and have their processes and best practices down pat. It's always good to see that. The Office of Local School Council Relation provides training, so not just one-time thing. They give you support on the day of. If you have any questions, there's usually an elections sort of number that they give you if you need support or have questions on that day. 1.2 is that if you're running for your school's LSC, there should be a school election coordinator. I'm understanding that not every school has them. but ask the administration if they have an elections coordinator. That would also be someone that you can refer to your questions, whether you're a candidate, election judge, or the general public. Let's see, what's another point that we wanted to discuss? The candidate forums. Want to talk a little bit about that, Chanela? No?
No, I do not, mainly because I haven't completed mine yet. I am one of those persons that is waiting at the to the last minute to submit my application, which I will be doing so in the morning. I will be running at two different schools, a high school and a elementary school. Um, the candidate statement could be very, very beneficial for when you're running. And it does depend on what area you're in, and then also, like what schools you are in. There are some schools that they take this very seriously. They take the campaigns very seriously, and you will see them, just like any other election, out canvassing and talking about why they're running and things like that. But then you have some schools that are not that deep with it. I think that if you, in a minute, we're going to pull up the LSC map and look at a couple of schools. And I was thinking about possibly putting in my application without doing a candidate statement, but one of the schools that I am running in, it is it's highly competitive. So I know that my candidate statement will be valuable for that high school. But then on the other hand, at the elementary school where I'm running, as of now, there are only two parents that have submitted an application. Again, there could be several more tomorrow before the deadline. But I'm kind of feeling like while I'm just I'm gonna definitely submit a candidate statement for that one. It might not necessarily, make or break it if I don't submit one. Yeah.
No. We talk about this, but I'm curious. I'm curious for those that are out there. The candidate form, what is it? Statement that we're talking about is listed as optional in the LSC nomination packet. But consider filling it out. It is a first introduction. Those are usually posted publicly for the school community, for the public at large. As you know, all folks in the school's attendance and voting district can vote for you in the LSC election. So amid the pandemic, I've seen schools really move towards putting those on the school's website or other, public, more public means. So if you are considering, running for LSC, I know it's an optional form. It's an opportunity to share your volunteer experience, why you're passionate for running for the LSC, how your experience or passion makes you a good candidate for folks to invest their vote in you in the April elections. So while it is just one additional form, consider filling it out, particularly at those schools that are going to have a competitive LSC election. It could really give you an edge. Anything else on, what about the upcoming candidate forums? That's where the schools are going to be holding those. We talked about this last week or the week prior, that schools are going to be holding their candidate forums March 11th through the 19th. LSCs have to decide which of those days they're going to hold them. Yesterday at the local school council advisory board meeting, we heard them say that it can also be a complement of hybrid options. So some schools are going to hold their candidate forums in their, school auditorium or, wherever in the school, and then also have a bridge to do it hybrid. If by chance candidates can't make it in person, they'll still have the opportunity to present themselves to the school community. Those candidate forums are no different than what you've experienced, whether you're voting in the municipal or federal elections and see candidates present themselves with their ideas, an opportunity for the school community to present questions. I see a lot of schools are having their students present and ask the questions, which is great to include them in this democratic process. Any other thoughts that I missed on the candidate forum, Chinel? I know did you all have one at your school when you ran last cycle?
We did. Yeah, we had a candidate forum And it was my first time on the LSC, so I had no idea what it was doing, but what I was doing. But looking back, um, it's very helpful because you want the stakeholders to get to know you and what you're about, what you're standing on, what the changes that you would like to see. So I think that it's a wonderful idea to have the students ask the questions. We do need to get them involved as much as possible. I did just want to add, in addition to the candidate forum, you also, if you have campaign literature that you would like to have sent out, I believe that the deadline for that is March 22nd. To deliver to the school staff the campaign literature that you would like for them to send out. They have a candidate literature distribution date. And so again, that's another way to have people get to know you. We are parents, so a lot of us are unable to canvass the school regularly because we have other, responsibilities. Most of us work 9 to 5, so it's kind of hard to get in before and after school. But with giving that candidate literature to your school, that's another way to get your name out there and to get those parents and students to know who you are and what it is you're about.
All right. I was trying to share my screen, but it is not cooperating, unfortunately. I wanted to share the election map. Uh, I know you had just mentioned it, as of, I believe folks are submitting their applications in real time, and then it takes a while. I don't know what that turnaround time looks like for schools to update this dashboard. But where we stand today is that there are, of the 508 schools that have LSC elections, um, 69 of them, according to CPS's dashboard, states that they are satisfied or have enough candidates. That's 6 parents, 2 community members, and the complement of teaching staff. So that's 2 teachers and 1 teacher rep. So of 508 schools, 69 of them have a full complement of candidates. That leaves 439 schools, um, you know, that don't have enough candidates for the upcoming LSC election. It's concerning. Some of the work that we do at Raise Your Hand has been ongoing support for parents and community members to fill LSC vacancies. We've been doing that since the 2020 LSC election cycle. I don't know that we've had numbers to this or vacancy, prospects up to this point. So hopefully there are thousands of you out there who are gonna, be like Chanella and open or submit. And I did too. I submitted mine on the day of at 2 o'clock. That's the thing with a lot of folks who've been in this space for quite some time. So thousands of you who are going to submit your application by tomorrow, February 14th at 3 p.m. at your school or the Office of Local School Council Relations. I'm going to try. Is there anything that I missed there, Chanella, that you wanted to bring up while I try to share this screen one more time?
So what I want to suggest to anybody that has already submitted their application is to go to that map and look up your school and check your name. We did hear that we did hear from someone that they did submit an application and we were checking and like didn't see their name up. I think that this might be for a later conversation, but the discrepancy in the information that CPS provides, because Natasha, you just mentioned um, looking at your map, I was going to ask you to refresh because on my end of the 508 schools, it says that 71 have satisfied their requirements. And you said 69. So I don't know if they are actually updating it real time and it just changed or or what. But I think that everyone should go and just double check to see that their name is listed. And if it is not, reach out to the school. Make sure that they did actually submit your application and log it in correctly, because we don't want, with tomorrow being the deadline, for people to realize that they actually, haven't had their application submit. And we just don't want to go down that road. Oh, it did update. Wonderful. Okay.
I hit refresh, and that's what's up. And so, if I think last year we shared just a static of this screen. So in real time, what this looks like is, again, of the 500, I apologize for the voice cracks, but if of the 508 schools, this shows that 71 of those schools have their full complement of a minimum of the 6 parents and 2 community reps. So I'm just doing a quick scroll. I don't know if a lot of of the community are aware that you can search in real time to see where candidates have already applied. So, and then of course, here on this screen, you see where I click on those that are not satisfied or don't have a minimum of 6 candidates and 6 parent candidates and 2 community candidates. You'll see that that is definitely a growth area that we definitely want to grow towards. I wanted to look at a couple of schools. I've been in conversation with partners across Inglewood, across out west, who are definitely in the far south, who are definitely looking for community members to run on their LSC and take these seats and help lead these schools to success, and definitely bringing the young people the supports and allyship that they need for hallways and classrooms to reflect safe haven to learn. What's a school that we should? Oh, one of the schools over in Inglewood that some folks have reached out. And again, if you live in this boundary, so Bond is an example of an elementary school. It's on 70th and May. And so, if you're again curious on what school you can run, so if you're a parent, you automatically have the qualification to submit an application as long as you have a child who's a full-time student, and that you are not an employee of the board. But as a community member, if you live within the school and within Bond's boundary, which is highlighted here, you can run to be a community rep at the school. Several other schools that are also across the area. Wentworth, they have their complement of 2 community reps, and of course the parents, they have 2 of 6. So this, we'll drop the link in the chat again if you are familiar with this LSC election map. And as you'll look over here, you'll see the vote. It'll have their name, of course, what office they're running from. And then after the election, so after April 10th and 11th, you will see the votes that'll populate here off to the right, which then will help you know who won that LSC election. So there are some schools that have more than 6 parent reps. So those folks who have a majority of the votes, say Christopher is an example that has 8. So it's going to be a sort of a competition for who's going to get the 6 top votes on election night. Usually within 48 hours, you'll see the parents with the majority of votes. Those will be the 6 selected, and then those 2, will not be selected. So again, this is a useful tool that if you have not yet decided, you have a whole day, 24 hours to make that decision, and would really love to see these seats be filled across the district. So we're going to push towards that. And if at some time we see what the vacancies look like, we will definitely be supporting parents to be able to be elected or walk on their LSEs. Is there any other schools that you want to look at, Chinella, before we
No,
You sure?
I'm positive.
There was a couple. There was a couple. There was the ones that we looked at, and we Manly, for an example, is out west. This is a school that has struggled to have parent reps over the last two cycles, at least. So if you know parents, who have young people enrolled in Manly, encourage them, have them reach out to us, connect them, make a connection. We would love to support for particularly for those schools that have historically had vacancies. In quite a few examples, we can see where that has had effects on the school. This is a school that isn't able to um, hold many of their business because they haven't had a full LSD. And so that's just one example. So we'll drop this link in the chat as a tool for you all to be able to use to see where you can, run, like I said, run for LSC. If you are a community rep, and if you're interested to know, it's a way for you to be able to track where candidates have already submitted. So where should we transition to next? I know we wanted to talk a little bit about the LSC election, or excuse me, LSC advisory board meeting that we went to last night. Chanel, you want to share some of your thoughts on what that looked like for those that weren't able to? Well, let's talk a little bit about what LSC advisory board is. So as you all know, across the schools, we have LSCs. Back in 1995, the district, once the power was transitioned to the mayor of Chicago, the district instituted this LSC advisory board. So a lot of the policy decisions that are made in the district, at times, if you look through those documents or policy, you'll see where it says maybe that the LSC advisory board recommended or had a say. I know that there has been over the years a disconnect with efficacy of that board. I know when I was on the LSC and we had issues, we were like, hey, we should go to this meeting. We're going to get something done. We ended up educating them on a lot of the policy that we thought that they should have been apprised of. So it looks like we have from what I saw last night, the advisory board that really is willing to take on agenda items and have some robust conversation. So it's really good for many to see that they are actually leaning in on what the book says, at least that their power is. So Chanel, do you want to talk a little bit about what we heard last night?
You know, there was a lot of discussion, but the one that is sticking in my mind is the discussion around the SROs. So some time ago, I've been on and off the LSC, so I forget the years. It feels like COVID has grouped everything into one big year. But I recall, I guess I want to say maybe in 2020 or 21 was it, where parents and community members and students were speaking out about removing the SROs from the schools, and they wanted to be able to make that decision on their own. And it was just a big back and forth about LSCs having that right instead of letting the board make those decisions. And so yesterday, it was just very interesting to me how I definitely recall so many LSC members stating that they didn't want to make that decision. They wanted the board to make that decision. They didn't want to be in the middle of it. And yesterday, there were a few LSC members that, like, in my opinion, backtracked. They changed their minds. Now that the board is taking over this decision, they were speaking out against it. Well, no, we want the power in our hands to make this decision. So I'm just, I'm wondering where that change has come from. Because it's just been a back and forth. And the point is, I do feel like the majority of parents and especially students that I come across don't want the SROs in the school, but the contract is ending. So I guess not that it doesn't matter now, but I'm happy to see that the contract is ending. I would definitely love to see more restorative justice and other wraparound services that I think are more beneficial than the SROs.
Yeah. When I was on, I think I shared this with you all, but when I was on an LSC, uh, the chair of our LSC, just meeting with the principal at the time who was like not even willing to entertain the conversation of getting rid of SROs. In fact, he got pretty salty at me because I persisted. And, you know, at the time we had, discussion around, we had problematic SROs in our school who had, their records were rife with disciplinary actions, harm to students at previous schools, so the push was that, okay, even if we keep the SROs at the school, we need to replace them with others. And remember that not being as easy as the mayor and the district had said that it would be. So we had Jadine Child, the chief of safety and security, come in and really had robust conversations with her across several meetings. Um, you know that transition to, I think, what happened in 2020 was the resolution that said that the district was supposed to come up with a plan to phase out SROs. So then the conversation was less about if we're going to move the SROs out on our own. There was now a resolution that said the district was transitioning to phasing out SROs. So part of that was the whole school safety. For those of you who have the whole school safety committees or the plan that you have been submitting each year, a part of that has been, lifting up those restorative and transformative practices, what supports you need in the building. And then a part of what Jadine Chow and her team has been doing over the last few years is the ability to give schools funding to get rid of that SRO. Both SROs. So at that school where I told you the principal refused to have an conversation, as soon as money was on the table to replace those, SROs with staff, the school, the LSE, voted to take that and replace both SROs. What I learned from that is that people want bodies, they want staff, they want support. They don't necessarily want cops, because I initially thought that was about, having a stronghold on, that old adage of, officer friendly, and we've got mentors in the building, with the full, active duty uniform with guns, and that presence of how it triggers young people depending on how they encounter cops in the community. So they didn't necessarily want that. What they wanted was bodies, and I believe the school is. I'm very proud of where they are right now. Have restorative practices. Have really used those funding to bring in, the supports that young folks need. So, if you are a school that is struggling with this conversation right now, I've seen some alders who went and spoke at the last board meeting. I hadn't seen them at the board meetings before, talking about other resources that their school need. But if I think this is a time and a moment for us to really, shift towards what makes our young people safe. There's a ton of research. The Cops Out CPS website is still up. There's all research data that proves that police and schools, are definitely not the North Star. And to see the district moving to this point is definitely a feather in the cap, or a solid from the youth-led Cops Out CPS or Police Free Schools work. And so, super excited to see that. Moving towards, what was the other topic that they discussed in that LSC advisory board yesterday? Forget.
It was it the 5-year plan? I think it was the 5-year plan.
And I don't know how far back those go, but their conversation was not having. So let's go back real quick. The LSC discussion that they brought up was that the district is making this decision unilaterally without including LSCs who have been involved in this decision since 2019. I didn't hear them reference the resolution, and I'm hoping that they had that in their folders as they made the decision. I just didn't hear it mentioned. I wonder if they are aware that the district has that 2020 resolution that says the district will begin the plan to phase out SROs. It looks like they're at that point 4 years later. Um, so definitely not one to, I mean, LSC empowerment means everything to us. That's what we strive for and work towards every day. I think this is not an exception to the rule, but this is definitely a CPS process that we've known about for quite some time, and here we are. So let's move forward. So you mentioned the 5-year plan. I don't know when those started, but I remember at least former CPS CEO Janice Jackson had a 5-year equity plan back in 2019. Quite a few of the LSC chairs and members from our area went to her launch. I think it was at Bronzeville Classical when it first opened back in the day. And I remember there being a 5-year plan then. It sounds like the LSC advisory board was unclear why there is now a 5-year plan. There seems to be some confusion around LSC not being informed in that. I wasn't really clear what the disconnect or what they thought was a long pole in the tent. Did you grab that?
So I did not. Now, what I do recall is, and I think I don't know if it might. I don't want it to be semantics, but I do recall there was a 5-year vision, and it was 2019 to 2024. So I don't know if that is the same as they are now calling the 5-year plan for what is it, 24 to 29. But I 24 to 29, I believe. But it was, yeah, it was interesting. I'm so sorry, I lost my thought. Uh, I was trying to I was trying to look for the agenda from yesterday. Um, and I lost my thought. Please forgive me.
No, it's all
I'm
good.
not going to get it back.
It's all good. It's all good. Listen, I'm curious for those of you who are sticking with us. We can see you out there in YouTube, Facebook. We don't see who's currently viewing us on the X app, but if you are out there on either Facebook or YouTube, you have a question, comment, please feel free to drop it in the chat and it should roll over and we should see that here if you would like for us to address any issue. But yeah, if you aren't already tapped in to the to the CPS 5-year plan, a part of that is some exciting updates. I know that some of it has also caused great concern. There's been some misinformation. It's my opinion that there has been some misinformation in terms of what those resolutions have meant, particularly the one that was passed in December, which is going to, move towards a focus of neighborhood schools. We have, I would say, largely an apartheid school district in many regards, where we have schools that are nationally ranked, and we have some that are the furthest from opportunity. And so to be able to seal that gap of inequity, the district is prioritizing investing in our neighborhood schools. And so I think that this is an opportunity for those of us who have been organizing, have shared with the district the debt that is owed to our children and families to make sure that they have a quality, education and in their schools where it is a safe haven, that they are moving towards what we've been asking for. So let's continue that work, hold the district accountable to what it says it wants to do, and be a part of the process. Because as we know, the district has, definitely not a reflection of those who are on the board, today. But we know over the years, unelected school boards in Chicago has, done a lot of harm. And I don't need to list what those harms have been, but hearing them say that they want to, move in the way that the community has been pushing them forward is definitely a part of that North Star. Let's see, we do have a comment here that I wanted to make sure that we address. Let's see, Janet here is saying we need all CPS LSC meetings to have the option of virtual public participation via Google Meets or the Zoom platform. Chanel, you have thoughts on that? Thanks, Janet, for dropping that in there.
Thank you so much for that, Janet. Yes, that actually was one of the comments that was made, and some of the discussion that was had yesterday. Um, I mentioned earlier we are parents, and someone yesterday mentioned to the meeting in the meeting that they know people that would like to be on the LSC, would like to be part of the school, but they cannot get to the school. They cannot put in, they're have issues with childcare and things like that, so they can't get their application in. And I think that that really does prevent people from, playing a role in being part of their school community. I wasn't. I'm back and forth. I know a lot of us, we get Zoom and Google Meets fatigue. But it is helpful for those parents that do work, hours when there would be a LSC meeting that they would like to attend, but they cannot because they can't be there in person. Or even again, not having the child care to attend the LSC meetings because sometimes, unfortunately, they don't want small children in that space. So I think that if there is a way that we can rally around that to have that option so that parents and then just community members that would like to watch, schools are not required to stream their LSC meetings, but it would be very helpful for people to know what's going on and, know that real time instead of waiting for the school to hopefully add the minutes, in a timely manner.
Yes, Janet, you are speaking to my heart. Some of the support that we provide with LSCs in real time is how to add to their bylaws, for LSC meetings to be hybrid. It's a best practice at this point. LSCs or the district aren't required to host them, but we saw LSC meetings with over 100 parents and community and students, amid the ongoing pandemic. So again, for the schools that do really well, um, uh, I see schools with YouTube pages that promote their LSC meetings. I've seen schools that project their LSC meetings onto Facebook. I've seen schools that have what's called a meeting owl. Um, a meeting owl is an ability to bring the virtual space into the room and vice versa, where you will see based on speaker, it rotates around the room so that you have a vantage point of, at least feeling like you're more in the room. And so for the schools who are, less organized or would like some tips on what that looks like, please contact us. We can help you with how to put that in your bylaws. There's also protections in the Open Meetings Act that I want to just mention before we go for LSC members. So if you are a current LSC member and say you have an illness, a child care emergency, any type of emergency, maybe a work commitment that takes you out of the city or out of the area, for that time frame, you can participate in your LSC meeting. This comes up a lot, whether or not you have to be in the room. The Open Meetings Act has always provided for emergency reasons to participate virtually or audio means, right? So every school looks different, but please lean in on that as well if you haven't already made that a priority for your LSC. So thank you again, Janet, for lifting that up. And I think we can, this has been a good conversation today. Like I said, we will come in each week to talk about all things happening around Chicago Public Schools. As we move to close, definitely want to, share that we have upcoming programming around the upcoming elected representative school board. Raise Your Hand has proudly been a part of the fight towards seeing that Chicago has its representative or elected representative school board. Those elections will be November of 2024 during the general election. Petitions happen soon. There'll be a lot of information that we're going to share in terms of the upcoming school board. We look to host forums, listening sessions as an organization that really prides the coalition of the work that has been done over the years. I want to say since the early 2000s, there's been a push towards having this come to Chicago. So it's exciting the opportunities that we have to build more base. I think LSEs are going to be a super powerful connection to hold this elected school board. I think it's going to start off hybrid, so there'll be 10 elected in November. Looks like that's where it's landing, or at least I saw the mayor and the Senate president lean towards a hybrid start. So there'll be 10 elected members across, I believe it's 20 districts. And then ultimately, I think 2 years later in January 2027, there'll be a fully elected fully elected school board in Chicago. So definitely looking forward to that. We'll have some programming March 12th. We'll post that on our social media, and definitely want to, invite everyone to join us. We'll have coalition partners in that space to share about the decades-long work towards an elected school board. So if you are out there on these Teach-In Tuesdays, we would love to host you up here if you're doing work around the district. We want this to be a comfortable, informal, space where we can share information. So parents, if you love to come up here and talk about what you need in this moment, no topic is off the table as long as it is focused around social justice, equity, racial justice, and liberation for Chicago Public School students and families. So thank y'all for joining us. We invite you to be well, be nice to each other, take care of yourselves, and do not forget to apply for your local school council elections by the deadline, which is tomorrow, February 14th at 3 p.m. Take care, y'all.